The shocking truth behind the Yanni Gourde trade has been revealed as multiple teams are involved, and it has major implications for the Tampa Bay Lightning as they send a serious message to their fan base that they are all in this season. We're going to break it all down and much more on this episode of Hattrick HQ. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. We've been doing some stat diving here at Hattrick HQ, and we found that about 72% of you are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening in the NHL, like blockbuster trades this week, and obviously heading into the playoffs, it's going to be very exciting. It's free. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. But Mark, we got a massive trade. First real massive trade, I guess, besides the Seth Jones trade just a couple days ago, ahead of the NHL trade deadline this year. And that, of course, is Mikey Eyssimont is headed to the Seattle Kraken. No, I'm joking. It is, of course, Yanni Gourde and Oliver Bjorkstrand in a pretty shocking move. Yanni Gourde going back to the Tampa Bay Lightning. What are your first initial thoughts on this trade? Because personally, and we'll get into it, I think it's a massive overpay, but it does certainly make the Tampa Bay Lightning a lot better.
I mean, the biggest thing is, first off, looking at Yanni Gourde, this was a guy that Tampa Bay fans are definitely familiar with. He had a good career with the Tampa Bay Lightning, holding down that third line going into Stanley Cup wins. This is a guy that could come in, fill out that third line perfectly. He was injured for quite some time this season, just coming back from injury and immediately getting traded to a familiar team. I do like the fit of Yanni Gourde. I know it's slim on the top end forwards in the trade deadline right now, but it does seem like a tad bit of an overpayment. Bortstrand's a guy that is kind of severely underrated around the league, a good goal scorer, a bigger body. He's not going to go out and throw a ton of hits, but this is a guy that could fit straight into the middle six of the Tampa team and even add more third line scoring or in a top six role if they go that route. I mean, 2 first-round picks does seem like a steep one, but looking at this, like you said in the intro, the Florida Panthers went out to get Seth Jones. The little brothers of the Tampa Bay Lightning started to add. So do you think this was more of a, hey, we're competing too, don't worry about Seth Jones because we're picking up our own players? Or was it more of a sense of, hey, we're just going to panic and get 2 players when we need them?
I actually don't think this is any sense of panic. I think this is a team that just won 8 in a row and a GM that goes, you know what, this team is playing really well at the right time. We're going to get them some help because we don't care what the Florida Panthers are doing. We believe we can win, right? And they know that they can win. They lost a lot of players from 2020 to 2021 and they went back to back. Then they went to another Stanley Cup final after that. So they do believe that they can win. They still have the same coach as well. I also wanted to mention that Detroit is also retaining salary on this deal, and obviously Seattle retaining 50%. So Gourde to Tampa for essentially nothing on the books right now. Tampa still has some cap space to work with, so pretty good deal in that way. And obviously it could make some more sense when you look at that in terms of the first round picks that are going the other way. But this is a major message to the Lightning fan base, I think, where they are all in. They haven't had a first round pick since 2020. They're not going to have one till 2028 at this point. So that's a long time without first round picks. They are all in. They're trying to make things happen. They've also, I think, at this point, Mark, solidified their middle six because there's a couple question marks there. They've certainly done that. If you look at the JFresh chart, I mean, Yanni Gourde, he was a player that I think that a lot of teams wanted. He is a pending UFA, so obviously a lot of teams wanted players with term this year. Things have certainly turned on their head a little bit in terms of the trade deadline this year, but no, he's a really good player, and I think that they've kind of solidified their middle six there with Oliver Bjorkstrand as well, who, surprisingly, to my surprise at least, is a very solid player. I see a lot of people throwing the word around elite on Twitter right now. Maybe not elite, but he's a solid player for them, and I think slotting him in there on that second line right wing is going to do wonders for this team heading into the playoffs.
And I mean, the biggest thing is we've seen the transition from the Stamkos era with the Tampa Bay Lightning this past offseason. It's really not working out for Nashville, but we're seeing John Cooper and this Lightning team just get a new identity. Obviously, you have your key pieces, Braden Point still there. You still have Hedman, Vasilevsky, but it does seem like they're getting this new supporting cast to add around the team. I mean, this is a team that's on a heater right now. You said it best. They're pushing their way in the standings. They're trying to take the top of the Atlantic from, I believe, the Leafs are still holding it. But it does seem like this is a serious message to around the league of, hey, we're not out of a contending window. We have a team. We're adding more. We are on a win streak. We want to win another Stanley Cup. I know every team aspires to do that, but this is a serious message that they're all in. The fan base should be ready for another run. And it would not shock me if they almost had another move up their sleeve.
Yeah, I wonder if there is another move up their sleeve. But if there isn't, this is a pretty good move. Obviously, I think that they massively overpaid for these two players. But despite that, if you look at what they've added to the lineup, I mean, second line right wing, Bjorkstrand's going to fit in right there with Cirelli and Hagel. Hagel's been on fire. He's having a very, very good year. And when you take a look at Bjorkstrand's stats this season, I mean, he has 37 points in 61 games on the Seattle Kraken. I feel like that's pretty good. He's not the biggest player, but Tampa's won Stanley Cups with a lot of, smaller players as well. It just fits their play style. So again, I think this is a very good option for the Tampa Bay Lightning, despite what they've given up in this trade. And when you look at the lineup again, I mean, then you have Yanni Gourde, assumingly going in on the third line center position there with Gergensons and Nick Paul. This is a tough team to play against still, right? They just plug in holes, and they're still a very tough team to play against. But like you said, even Chris Pronger is chiming in as well. It seems like Tampa is all in, and he has to give credit to Julien Brisebois for, seeing that, they won 8 in a row. Let's try to go for it here. Let's add some pieces. So it's going to be very interesting with Bjorkstrand added as well. But yes, I think that the Tampa Bay Lightning, like Bench Rate says here, have really solidified their middle six. But, looking at the defense too, do you think that maybe, they upgrade at the defense position as well, or is another new move coming maybe at the forward position? I feel like maybe they have one more up their sleeve, because if we take a look at the salary cap and their current cap space and what they have remaining at the deadline, they still have a little bit of wiggle room.
I could see this being a thing where they go out and get more of a older right-handed or left-handed defenseman just to kind of add as insurance on the back end. I mean, we see every team in the playoffs, someone is going to go down with an injury. No one wants to see it happen, but it does happen. People get banged up. It's a long series. I mean, 7 games in a row against the same team, feuds happen. People start hitting harder and harder. So someone's going to get banged up. I could see them going out, making a trade, picking up another defenseman. Maybe it's a harder to play against defenseman. I don't think they're going to add an offensive defenseman, but it's going to get really interesting to see what this Tampa Bay team looks like post trade deadline. I mean, we've seen them come into the season already making changes. Stamkos leaving, as I said, but I think we're going to see almost a different team, and obviously they're not going to trade out big players or anything like that, but I think they're going to add a couple more slow impact guys to this roster.
Yeah, I think that's definitely an option for them at this point still. And honestly, I have to say I'm blown away by this team and what John Cooper has done. I'm a big fan of John Cooper, despite not being a Tampa Bay Lightning fan, with what he's been able to do with this team year after year after year. I thought that this year, like the Bruins finally, I was like, maybe this is the year Tampa kind of falls out of the playoff picture, and that is very much not the case. They just won 8 in a row. They're not even back in the playoff picture. I mean, they might win the division at this point. They're right there with the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Florida Panthers, and now the Florida Panthers are dealing with Matthew Tkachuk being out for an extended period of time too. So it's going to get very interesting come Friday, because a lot of teams are not done yet. And when you have teams getting in on trades like this, like Detroit is doing, where you can retain up to 75% of a player's contract with, a little of the contract left anyway, because the year is almost done, we're going to see some crazy things, I think, over the next couple days. But we want to hear what you have to say in the comments about this trade and all the trades going on around the league. It's been pretty crazy so far. Did not expect Seth Jones to get traded. I did not expect that. So pretty crazy so far, and I think we're expecting some more fireworks. But if you haven't yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything going on in the NHL.